Under all of that stuff, the people pleasing, the loneliness, the fear of being alone and whatnot, here's the solution that we came into with this for this individual and what you can follow as well if you would like yourself. Number one, you need to go create, or I should say, we put this individual on to create a vision for himself of where he wanted to be in the next 5 years in 3 areas of his life. Number one, his relationships. Number two, his personal life. So that has everything to do with his health, his mental state, and so on. And number three, his careers. He said, go work on this. Write it down. Put exactly where you want to be. It's an endpoint. You don't have to be crystal clear, but you need at least a good North Star that you can follow so that you're not just wandering through and you're really going in and finding this out. Number two, the next thing we put this individual onto was then looking at each of those 3 areas and saying, okay, what's just the one step I need to take in the next 90 days? So in his professional life, it was basically finding what he wanted to do in his career path. That was a really good one for him, right? It's like, hey, go do what you got to do. Understand what you want. So we helped him coach to that. In his personal life, he came to the conclusion that he needs to start getting selfish to be selfless and working on himself and bettering himself first. Because the truth is, what do you have to give to others if you can't give to yourself first? That's the reality. People want to give to so many other people. Yes, it's important, but you need to work on yourself so you have something to give. And the last part was his relationships. And he said in the next 90 days, he wanted to put together a more well-rounded, holistic social life for himself. Those are 3 great ways to start taking a step towards things. Okay. The second last part that we asked him to do then was put together 3 to 7 daily or weekly action steps you can take towards this. Run it on repeat. So his health, he got, I'm assuming he put a workout routine and whatnot together because we spoke about that in the call and then we let him go do it. His personal life, he did the same. His relationships, he did the same. The last part was this, though. What this individual did with calling in for us was he resolved his past. So we follow something at Molliteum here that we say, envision the future, resolve the past, create in the present. Meaning, have a vision of what you want. The second thing is get rid of all the obstacles that are there from the past that you're burying deep inside. Mm-hmm. Get rid of those because at the end of the day, those will eventually be the things that hold you back. We see this all the time when we work with athletes who come to us. They want to be, and they can't get over, though, this one thing that happened, and that's caused them to build a belief system or a behavior that really holds them back. So for this individual, it was he got clear on his vision, and then we helped him resolve that belief of, a fear of being alone or the loneliness or not having meaning and finding that in other people. We helped him resolve that. He resolved that past, right? Did he fully get rid of it? Probably, to the majority of the degree, yes, but we gave him strategies to keep overcoming that when he faced it. So he resolved it. And then we had him finally create in the present. So the last part that I personally do with myself, and I do this every month, whenever I go through my own targets that I'm setting or whatever, I always envision what I want. I resolve any past limiting beliefs that I might have. So it could be, well, I tried this and it didn't work for me. So I got to clear that belief out and I defeated that belief and I faced that belief and I faced that fear. And then I found the things that I needed to do personally to overcome that. And then I could finally create in the present and I could do it carefree and, well, not carefree, I should say, but worry-free in a sense where I wasn't worrying about, will this fail now? Am I good enough? Is it going to, is the rug going to be pulled from under my legs? It was just go create. It's actually kind of like with this podcast, right? I had this great vision of the podcast. I wanted to start. My biggest, fear, if you will, before we started this way back when we did, do we even have good enough content to create things or do we know what we're talking about? And it's like, yes, man, you do. But when I resolved where that came from for me, which was we had a down year in 2018, 2019, where just some things were going on and we had to resolve it. I was still holding on to that. And because I was still holding on to that fear, I didn't go and take action on creating what I wanted. And then finally now we're creating in the present. Each week we're finding ways to get better. We're finding ways to do this better and so on. Yeah. But my point is to wrap up and kind of conclude on all of this. You need to make sure as an athlete, as a high performer, as a human being, you have a very prioritized life. Do not mask shit by throwing yourself into something. Face it. Because eventually, here's all you're doing. Eventually, from what I've learned, I was just prolonging my own suffering, right? Meaning that eventually I had to face it. You do. And oftentimes, if you can get it right when it starts, you're not going to have a bunch of things that you need to deal with later on. You can just cut it at the knees and move forwards. And that then allowed me to create in the present and move on. And you have to realize the last part to this all is when you don't throw yourself in and bury like that, yes, there's certain times in your life that it can help, but you need to find that balance of, okay, you know, when enough is enough. You have to face your stuff. You have to face your shit.
Yeah.
Right.
The one major thing that I would want to leave everybody with that I learned this week, pain is mandatory, but the way in which you approach it, like struggle is not.
Yeah.
Yes, you know, things aren't going to work out for you sometimes. Sometimes you're going to get hit with very bad news. Sometimes you're not going to do well on that test that even though you study for it, like pain is mandatory. It's going to be there. But the way that you look at things and approach it and what your next steps are moving forward, it is under your control.
Fully in your control.
And as soon as you become too bitter, it makes, you know, everything sour.
Yeah.
So if you have an option to, you know, look at it, slow it down, you can take the proper steps for it.
You do it, right? The common saying goes, decisions, not conditions, determine your destiny. That's the reality. So with that being said, this is it was a great story to share and understanding, because I want you to, you know, realize as a high performer, anybody tuning in, you're not going through this alone. It's not just you. It's common to see a bunch of, you know, athletes or high performers going through loneliness. Loneliness, it's common, unfortunately. And if you are going through it, we're here. So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the full podcast episode, click right here.